Hi world, it's 20 to 1 in the afternoon on the 16th of August 2016. Mars is now about 5 or 6 degrees of Sagittarius, 4 degrees away from Saturn. Saturn is standing still now, he's just stood still, he's getting ready, he's moving forward. He's going to be starting to clear certain degrees now, and the pressure is going to start easing up once we're into September. Meantime, we've got to get through a lot of stuff. Mars is about physical energy. It's the way you project and assert yourself. It's what you're like in the bedroom or down the gym, digging the garden or walking the dog. It's warlike, aggressive and violent. It's brave, heroic and courageous. The positive side of Mars comes across when one is assertive and projective. The negative side comes across when one is confrontational and aggressive. Mars likes being in Sagittarius because Sagittarius is a fire sign. Mars is a fire planet, but Sagittarius is not generally confrontational. It's more easygoing and flexible. So Mars in Sagittarius has a sharp humour. It's nowhere near as subtle, tactful or diplomatic as it likes to think it is, but it's nevertheless a fun position where it bounces along, tries to be good friends with all people, but isn't scared of taking action where necessary. Most of the time I really like Mars in Sagittarius, but there's a few factors here. Mars conjunct Saturn. Saturn is old Father Time, his structure and boundary, law and order. Mars and Saturn are uneasy with each other because Mars is all action and doing it now and fire and feistiness, and Saturn is all about structure and boundary and the law. And it's like the outlaw and the sheriff. When they come together, there's normally some type of explosiveness, whether it be physical explosion, as in some type of manufactured explosion, whether it be a geophysical thing, which is a strong possibility, although there's no signs of that as yet. But there's some type of explosiveness. But because this is Mars and Saturn together, with Saturn standing still, and it's in Sagittarius, very close, I'm not sure, I think it's Antares, very close to one of the major fixed stars. I have a funny feeling that this is much more incisive, much less explosive in terms of big explosion taking out a lot of different things. It's much more incisive, and it's site specific. Fact is that Mars is square Neptune as well. Mars and Saturn are square Neptune. The Saturn square Neptune I've covered, but with Mars square Neptune, I've got that in my natal horoscope. When young, it's about the difficulty people have differentiating between fantasy, which stays between the ears, and the imagination, which can be created. When older, Mars square Neptune people learn how to use their physical energy in a creative and imaginative way, often through things like the blend of physicality and spirituality through things like yoga, tai chi, qigong, pilates, sometimes through swimming, or in my case through clubbing and dancing. But this Mars square Neptune, with Mars Saturn square Neptune, it's every time that there's an attempt to do something assertive and projective, Neptune's going to dissolve it and slip away. And every time that Neptune tries to bring an element of spirituality in, the Mars Saturn is going to slip underneath with a knife and sabotage it. There's something here about gas. The invisible stuff could be poison, but not really. Toxins. Even on its own, Mars conjunct Saturn square Neptune is a really damn pokey aspect. But the fact that it's happening at the same time as a near total eclipse of the Sun, and that the Sun-Moon eclipse is opposite Neptune and square Mars Saturn, adds to the immediacy and the urgency of the aspect. It really suggests that the aspect timing is much more critical. It's not spread out over a long period of time. It's much more incisive over just a few days. And the time schedule on this is somewhere between August 22nd and September the 1st. I'll be a lot more specific as we get closer to it. I'll be really looking at the time of the eclipse on September the 1st, maybe about 5 or 6 days after, when Mars in the sky will pass over, the moon in the sky will pass over Mars and Saturn. Of course, Mercury's about to go retrograde as well. So the fallout from what I'm saying is coming up will get messy, and that's not going to be resolved until Mercury stops going retrograde around the equinox. At which point, the emphasis switches then, perhaps away from much of where the trauma has been so far this year, and perhaps more towards America and its upcoming election. But just when you thought we were getting out of the woods, come mid-September, a few people, I do all these videos for people monthly, and a lot of people are suddenly looking like, oh dear, something's coming up at the start of December. Pluto will be at 16 degrees of Capricorn in December. Jupiter will be at 16 degrees of Libra at the start of December. There's a big Jupiter-Pluto square coming up, and that is going to generate its own heat. This is much more economic and financial, and this is a heads up that very late November, very early December is also going to be a pretty critical time. 2016 is turning into a really sticky year, but in terms of incisiveness and dynamic action, I've been fingering this time we're just about to launch into now for a long time. And I, for one, will be really glad once we're well into September, and particularly once we're past the equinox. But for the next 10 days, smile at people. You've got nothing to lose, and it makes the world a better place. Don't buy into the hype and spin. Don't buy into any type of generated panic. Astrology knows what it's doing. Astrology is a motive force. There is a reason behind all that's coming up. Trust the process. At least that's what I'm telling myself. All right, catch you later, world. Bye.